You will see to your surprise that exactly half of the results are even numbers and half of them are odd numbers.
What the What the hell? Rational believer, mind-blowing Qur'an miracles.
The Quran is a miracle. Nothing else like the Quran has ever been produced. The Quran is the strongest proof that Muhammad was a true prophet. We hear these claims made quite often, but do we truly understand them? What makes the Quran so otherworldly? Why is the Quran a miracle?
Let's look at this book itself and ask, is there anything in this book that indicates its divine origins? And I will say that when Christians and Muslims want to argue with atheists and prove the existence of God, we say that there is design in nature and that design points to a designer. Moreover, as Colin Ronan has pointed out in his book, The Universe, there is mathematics behind everything in the universe, the arrangement of stars and planets and galaxies and everything, and that mathematics points to a grand mathematician.
That's true. I was reading a lot of articles about the universe and how the universe is even possible, and it's so weird. But like the universe is so organized, like too organized, you could say, that it's wild to just say like this is just a coincidence and nobody had anything to do with it. Like, no, guys, if you actually realize how organized the universe is, like I'm talking like in proper order, like it's wild.
Who put it all together? The Quran mentions a word and also a contrasting word, and though these words are in very different places in the Quran, it turns out now, as we can see, that the two words, the one and its contrast, are used an equal number of times. For example, hot and cold are used in the Quran 4 times each. Man and woman, 24 times each. The Quran in Surah 3, verse number 59 says that the example of Jesus with God is like Adam, meaning that God created them both. Now we can see that, in fact, Jesus and Adam are each mentioned 25 times in the Quran.
Whoa, what the heck? What? Okay, this is yo, that is freaky. That is freaky. Like, guys, I'm not gonna lie. I said this before in my videos in the past. Like, there is a thing of too much of a coincidence, okay? Now, if something is too much of a coincidence, then it's not a coincidence, okay? Honestly, this is like too much of a coincidence. And honestly, it's not a coincidence. Now, how do you want to interpret this? Honestly, I can't really interpret it in any way. Why? I am completely ignorant about the Quran. I don't know what's in the Quran. I just simply make reactions on the Quran and the Quran verses. I don't know how similar it is to the Bible. I don't know what it took from the Bible. I recently did a video where they were talking about Zechariah and the other prophets, that the same exact prophets in the Bible, but I didn't know that they were talking about the same people that's in the Bible. So I was thinking that these are completely different people. So again, whenever I make videos on the Quran, I'm literally coming in from a very ignorant view, completely just nothing, like just blank. Okay, like I'm coming in blind. Okay, so whenever I see these things, I don't know. I'm just like, whoa, that's insane. I'm not gonna disregard that, right? Because I'm a very open-minded person. This is why I tell people, I listen to what the Quran says. Why do I listen to what the Quran says? Because the Quran, at the end of the day, still believes in the same God. The only thing that I disagree with the Quran about is Jesus. That's it. Everything else, honestly, everything else that the Quran does say, I actually, based on what I've heard, it does make sense. There's not really like one time where I've like done. I believe me, I'm not just saying this out my butt. No, if there was something that I disagreed on, I would literally sit here and be like, nope, I disagree with that. Although the only thing that I disagree with is the whole number one, Adam was the first human. Adam was not the first human. I already talked about this before. And number two, the Quran says that God is the only God. Because the way how the Quran says that God is the only God, it's saying that there's no other entities aside from him. And I actually kind of do believe that there's other gods. It's just that I already explained this before. I already feel like explaining this again. When I say God, I don't mean like on the same level as the God. I just believe that God is the God of gods, if that makes sense in layman's terms. So yes, whenever I see stuff like that in the Quran, I will speak my mind on it. But overall, 80%, 90% of what the Quran says, I sit down and listen to it.
Quran. We always speak of the devil and angels in contrast. It turns out that the devil is mentioned, Satan is mentioned 68 times in the Quran, and angels mentioned also 68 times. Now that's if we take the words by themselves. If we take the words with all of their adjuncts and variations, it turns out that there's 88 on one side and also 88 on the other side. So
yeah, no. Yeah, definitely somebody, someone, or something had to be responsible for that. Guys, you can't. That's there's. How do you explain that? Like, how do you explain that? Seriously, how do you explain that? Seriously, all the Christians in the guys. I want to hear the Christians, because Christians be watching this type of stuff too. And it's honestly fun to because I do read, even if I don't respond to comments instantly, I read them as soon as you post them. It's just that I'm a very busy person that I just already have that time to just respond to them. But it's very fun seeing what other Christians have to say. I seen them argue with Muslims in my comment section. I just be like drinking like one of this, like a malt or some other drink, and I'm just like, The only thing that I probably could think about is that maybe someone wrote this. Maybe someone, you could say that. You could say someone wrote this, but the thing, and the problem with that is that they believe that the Quran is written in God's words, like no one else. Now, ask them, where's the proof of that? And this is actually a valid question. Where's the proof of that? But this video and the part one, because this is part two, it's the whole purpose is kind of to show proof. So you know,
it's balanced again. We contrast this life with the life hereafter. The word for this life in the Quran occurs 115 times, and also the word for the life hereafter occurs 115 times. How did this coincidence come about? Are all of these just coincidence?
Also, who counted? Who got the idea of let's count all of these individual words? Who got that idea? Like, let's just take note of how many times this is mentioned and see if there's like any like correlation or any coincidence. Who got that idea?
Or is this a plan? And was this a plan of human beings? From what I know of the Quran and its history, this is evidence of the divine origin of the Quran. We have to ask, who put this in there? And we realize that no human being did, and this is the word of God. In a similar vein, I can say that the word for month in the singular occurs in the Quran exactly 12 times. And the word for day in the singular, without any suffixes, occurs in the Quran 365 times. Now, how did that come about? What are the chances that you pick up a book, any book, and find that it uses the word day exactly 365 times?
When was the Quran written? In like the 7th century? Or not written, but revealed to Muhammad in the 7th century? We were already using the days and months that we use in that time period, right? Because throughout history, people have used different like calendars and style of time to keep track of day. I don't know, but I think we were using like the modern day night system calendar that we use. I forgot the term that it's called. I think it begins with a G or whatever. Um, I don't know.
Many of you write essays for school, and your word processor nowadays will count the number of words in the entire essay. But how many of you would bother to check how many times did you use a particular word in that essay? Hardly. Now, if you go back in hindsight and you've written a book and you find that you've used the word day 365 times, you'll say that's remarkable. It is a coincidence, but nothing more. But if you find that all of these things are lining up, how many coincidences are you going to have? Now, this shows that God is behind the Quran. But there is also another argument in the same lines that will show that we have the entire Quran today, and that this is not only due to divine intervention to give us this Quran, but divine intervention to safeguard this Quran, so we know that we have the entire book as it is in this particular version. So we have to ask then, is this Quran that we have sufficient for our salvation? And can we have confidence that God is behind this book? Now, for this grand mathematical scheme in the Quran that assures us that the Quran has been preserved by God as we have it now. In this particular reading, the Egyptian 1924 edition. The Quran comprises 114 chapters. Each chapter has a number of verses, and there are two numbers that are thus associated with each chapter. The chapter number, from 1 to 114, and the number of verses within the chapter. Now, there is a mathematical relationship between these two numbers. If you add the two numbers together, you either get an even number result or an odd number result. That's elementary. You add two numbers together, you either get an even number result or an odd number result. If you do this for the entire Quran, you obviously have 114 results. And some of them are going to be even numbers, some of them are going to be odd numbers. If you did this yourself, you will see to your surprise that exactly half of the results are even numbers and half of them are odd numbers.
What the What the hell? What?
57 even numbers, 57 odd numbers. What created this fine balance? Now let's go deeper. Take the 57 even number results and add them all together. You get the grand total of 6,236. Even though this total emerged from only 57 chapters of the Quran, this number, 6,236, is also the number of verses in the entire Quran. So how did that emerge from only 57 chapters? Now, let's look at the odd number results and add them all together. The sum of those 57 odd number results is 6,555. And it turns out that that number is the grand total of all of the chapter numbers of the entire Quran, the entire 114 chapter numbers. How did this fine balance occur? So that not only do we have an even number of even and odd results, but the even results total the number of verses of the entire Quran, and the odd number
I'm honestly speechless, guys. I don't know what to say.
results is the total of all of the chapter numbers of the Quran. Now, one step further. If you did this yourself in, let's say, a computer worksheet program, you entered all of the numbers, now you have the results, you see the numbers matching at the bottom in your totals, you will see that if you put in one verse extra anywhere, or you take out one verse by changing the numbers, just make one number bigger by one or smaller by one, or you change any of the chapters, add a chapter, take away a chapter, the entire system then collapses. And what this means for me is that, to begin with, the system is there in place by God himself. And secondly, this shows that the Quran, the one that I'm referring to, has been preserved and handed down to us over time, so we can be assured that this is the Word of God.
That's some crazy stuff that I just watched. Wow. That's insane. That's insane. Now, I can't really think of anyone who would take their time to mathematically. Because, guys, for you to do something like that, you need to sit down. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's possible people did do that. There was a bunch of mathematicians back then who would just dedicate everything to just math and like philosophers and all that. Like people who just dedicate their lives to just one thing. It's possible, but like I don't know, guys. That is I can't really think of anyone who would sit down and write something like that. No normal human being. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. If you're a Christian, what do you think in the comments? That's I don't know what to say, to be honest. I that's just wow. But if you like my reactions and you made it all the way to the end of this video, make sure you like and subscribe. If you have any other videos like this that you want to see my reaction to, comment it in the comments below. Eventually, I will do it. Literally like 99% of the videos on this channel are suggestions that I just simply react to at this point. Make sure you like and subscribe. Check out the channel membership for 99 cents a month. Thank you for watching. Wow, and goodbye.